Welcome again to the 100 Pounder meeting. Today is Wednesday, October 7th, and we welcome Adam S. to share their experience, strength, or hope.
Here I am. Can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
Great. Thank you, Rita, for asking me to share. I apologize in advance. I started work already, but taking a little break for this. So I'm glad to be here. I'm not tech savvy, so I asked Rita to share a picture, and I think that's really important. So if you could share that, yeah, that's the one. So that's me. I'm the size of two people. I'm the guy in the white shirt, holding my hands out. I'm a 100 pounder, and I sometimes think like it's real. I'm really glad you guys share pictures because a picture says so much. And that guy, if I look at him, I haven't like studied the picture in a minute. That guy wouldn't have been able to start the day that I started today. That was many years ago. I'm maintaining about 140-pound weight loss. I became abstinent on November 30th, 1998. And that guy didn't know how to have integrity. He didn't know what discipline was. He didn't know what commitment was. And I just didn't know how to tell the truth. So integrity, I'll start with yesterday. So I'm a grandfather. I just became a grandfather. Today's Tuesday. It was a week ago. And there was a celebration yesterday. And this is the type of program I have to work. I was such a trash bag yesterday. I had, I was not on my best, right? I started in the morning. I spoke to an old friend. I didn't like the energy between us. Something was off, and I didn't like the exchange. I didn't like how I was showing up to it. I got to the celebration. I'm like, oh, let me make fun of my mother-in-law behind her back, right? And the celebration started at 8:30 in the morning, and I, of course, worked every second right up to the moment. And on the way, they said, "Hey, can you stop at the grocery store?" And I was late, and my wife was so pissed. Why do you do that? And the answer is, I mean, I'm not new to that type of behavior, right? I've been doing that for a minute, right? That sort of behavior. And where I say I rush, even today, I was rushing to get here, and I'm the last minute, and I'm not considerate of the activity, and I wasn't helpful, and it was a whole exchange. And I say that for a number of reasons, right? Why would I tell you that as the lead? First, I show you the picture of 140 pounds heavier, right? And then I tell you a day in the life. I went out of order here because my program since November 30th, 1998, and it starts with what goes on the plate, and it's extended to what happens in my life. I can't lie about my food, and I can't lie about my life. So when I'm not an all-star, sometimes I get the idea here that we have to pretend that we're all-stars, right? I'm not an all-star, but I have to tell people and not edit and not try to edit and make myself comfortable with a yeah, but about yesterday, right? I have to be able to say what I did, how I did it. I have to say it in real time, and I have to think about ways to clean it up. I'm so grateful. I swim 3 times a week in this class, and just randomly, this guy who I swim with we got to know each other after a little while, and floated some 12-step stuff, and he's an AA. He's been in AA for 30 years. And it's wonderful, right? And I book him, and he's laughing as I'm telling him, he's like, "You better get your wife flowers today." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I better." And I'm like, I didn't want to hear that. And we have this relationship where we have these little mini meetings after our class. And I learned all that here, right? That type of integrity where I have to own my mistakes. I have to admit my flaws. I also have to acknowledge my strengths. And a 100-pounder, I'm not good at that part, right? I want to pummel myself. I'm so hard on myself. So hard on myself. And that's part of, to me, I see it a lot in the men I work with. I only work with 100-pounder men. And I see this sort of very hard on themselves thing that I have. It often reminds me of me. So I start with that because I have to make it right. And that means I have to tell a sponsor. And I already did. I wrote down everything I just told you, and in the same, hopefully uncensored way, without excuse, and just say, okay, what does it mean to make it right? And I trust him. I trust that he's got good guidance about what it means to make it right, and to get move away from my self-consumed position, my self-consumed way of being, so I could go back to the business of living and hopefully remember why I'm here and what my purpose is. So that's an example of a day in the life of me now. And who was the guy in the picture? Who was the guy in the picture that that guy didn't know how to do that, right? I was an eating machine, and I didn't really understand, you know, I didn't really know what it meant to have a disease. I had no idea, right? And I didn't know till I knew, right? I didn't even hear of it, right? My father is an obesity doctor, right? And he never heard of the disease, right? He had a lot of ideas, and I got this disease, right? I was the heavy kid in the class, right? Ironically, there was always another heavy kid all the years, and one of the other heavy kids is my brother in OA in LA. We grew up together, and now he too is a 100-pounder. He too has recovery, and found the rooms, which is wonderful. But it started at such a young age, right? And if I think about what was going on, it's very hard to make room for life and make room for the disease, right? I have a disease of crowding myself, and I'm crowded in my own symptom, right? And the symptom from I have a substance use issue, and the substance is food, right? That's my substance problem, right? I don't know how to eat like a gentleman. I don't know how to moderate. I don't know how to be honest around food. And I had a lot of ideas about how food's supposed to work and how food doesn't work, like many of us. But had no idea what addiction was. I had no idea that there was such thing as described in our book about an obsession of the mind and an allergic response. So think of all those years that I was lost, and if they did tell me, I don't think I could have heard it anyways. So I got bigger and bigger, and my life got smaller and smaller. And I didn't know how to be honest with myself, and I didn't know how to be honest about my food, and I didn't know how to be honest with you. And in that experience of being in the disease, and I was in the disease till my 30th year, right? I did it for 30 years. I did it from the gate, and I did it for 30 years. And it certainly wasn't good for work, right? I wasn't one of these people. I meet people who, I know a guy who's so prominent in his work. He's like 400 pounds plus, and it's unbelievable. I didn't have that type of energy. It was very hard for me to show up, and I didn't know how to do relationships well. I was a nice guy, and I was funny and fun, but I would fracture them because I wasn't trustworthy. And I loved the attention of having information. So I wasn't to be trusted. I didn't know how to be the son I want to be or the sibling I want to be. I was angry. I was an angry guy, and my world, like I said, I got bigger, my world got smaller. And if I think about the disease, I've said this before, I don't want to watch the movie, and I don't want you to watch the movie, right? I don't want to see the footage. And there was a moment in time, like my roommate from college and my other good friend from college, for some reason, maybe it was after we graduated, they were staying in my house, and they had a wedding here in LA. And this sort of captures it. My mom, I come from six kids, and she would make these big vats of spaghetti to serve eight people. And she was like one of these moms who always had extra food. And I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I wake up, and it's so urgent that I eat. Instead of getting like a bowl, I just take the big vat of spaghetti and I pour it over my face. And it's spilling all over me. And I'm just like a vacuum cleaner sucking it in. And I look up and I watch the horror on my friend's face. My friend's faces, both of them were there. Years later, he said to me, you were always funny until that moment. Right? That's when I knew something was wrong. He told me that. He's like, it was really disturbing to see that. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to see that again. I don't want you to see it. I don't want him to see it. It was disturbing, but I need to remember that's how I approach food. And when you're that type of urgent eater, then it's really hard. At least for me, it was really hard to make room, to find the right amount of room to do life. So I found the rooms early on in 1993 or 1994, before I got here. Somebody told me a couple things happened. And I think this is important. The first point of recovery for me, and I'm glad we're on a 100-pounder meeting, right? Because we take it far. Somebody said to me, hey, why don't you start brushing your teeth? I smoked, I drank, right? And then somebody said to me, why don't you start brushing your teeth? Before I knew about program, I said yes. It was the first thing I said yes to. I said there was a willingness there. I don't know why. Years before I knew about program, I said yes. And I look at that in some ways as the beginning of a journey to recovery. I then was in school, and one of the field placements I was in, somebody said to me, hey, I think you have a problem with food. I'm like, yeah, no shit. And then the guy said to me, I think I think you have an addiction. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not an alcoholic. I said, I have to eat. And he said, not like that. And I heard it for the first time, right? Like, oh, maybe I was 24. I heard it for the first time. I'm like, and then I had to do what we do. I had to prove that wasn't true. Right. So I went to a few meetings in Chicago where I was in school, and I'm like, these people are crazy. I don't go to groups, I give groups. I didn't have the ego. My ego was too big. And I thought I knew something, and they're angry and they're messed up. And then I went again a few years later, and they were less messed up this time as I got more messed up. And they were just women, and I didn't relate to them. And finally, I started working in a place where I was working with somebody who was my mom's age. One person was my mom's age, and the other person was my dad's age. So interesting. And one was in our program, and one was in AA. And the woman was in AA, and she was a tough Italian woman. And she just saw me, and she laughed, and she's like, you're such an alcoholic. And she didn't mean just alcohol. She meant, you're such a glutton, you're such a glutton. It was ha ha. And I didn't get, and she saw me, and she didn't push me. She didn't push me at all. She just laughed. We'd like, sometimes we'd get free, like they'd ask, like they would do like, hey, here's your budget. And I'd be like, I want to order everything. I want like 6 computers, right? And she'd just laugh. She's like, oh, I know how you roll, right? And one day, on November 8th, 1998, I went to a supermarket, and I was by myself, and I just devoured the content. I just grabbed a bunch of stuff in the bakery, and I devoured it. And I came to work the next day. I said, I was defeated. I don't know what happened. It wasn't, I went back to my car. I ate it really fast. I thought I was on this great diet, and I don't know why. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but something about it was defeating. And she said, what's wrong? I said, I can't stop eating. And she said, we're going to a meeting. And I just said, okay. I didn't even know. And she found a meeting and we went and she raised her hand. She said, Adam, share. He needs to share. I'll never forget it. The meeting's not around. Tell him what you told me. She's a strong bulldog. And I just said, I can't stop eating. And then she said, eat 4 meals a day and watch trashy movies. That's it. And that was November 9th, 1998. On November 15th, 1998, I turned 30 years old. There was a party for me. I never had tiramisu cake, right? When no one was looking, I was in Overeaters Anonymous for 6 days at that point. I grabbed the piece of cake so no one was looking with my hands. I didn't realize how sticky it was, shoved it in my pocket, went in the bathroom and devoured it. Now, here's the pivotal moment for this story that I hope I have time to share, which is when I got to Overeaters Anonymous, people told me, love yourself. Why would you go back? If you're on your way from Los Angeles to New York and you stop in Arizona and you get a flat tire, don't go back to LA, keep going, love yourself. And my sponsor at the time, right, the guy who became my sponsor, said to me, hey, Adam, don't listen to that. You got drunk. That's called getting drunk in this program. Shoving tiramisu in your pocket, sticking all over, eating it with your hands while you're in the bathroom so you can go back to the table and act like nothing happened is called getting drunk. And he introduced me to this idea that you could have a sober experience here. And he said to me, he said, find anybody you want and do whatever they say, as long as it's not you. Fire yourself. And I heard that really clearly. I heard that. I'm like, oh, I'm the problem. I've got so many ideas. My ideas are my problems because I turn my ideas into actions, and my idea, all roads lead to food. So I was willing to find somebody. I went with the first person. I was 30. I went with the first person who was younger than me as a healthcare professional. She was a nutritionist. I said, I like that she's younger than me, right? I said, I'm going to do whatever you say. I'm the judge. You're the judge. I'm the lawyer, right? I'll argue, but you make the decision. And to this day, I operate that way. I don't make food decisions, and I'm grateful. So there began the moment of truth where I don't lie about my food. And I want to take it back. So years of that. To access that experience, I can't do it alone. No way. Sanity cannot come from me alone. Step 2, right? I know that there's no universe where I can do food. I know that I'm powerless. I also know more and more and more that any life done by me where I'm in charge is a symptom generator. I'm a scaredy cat. I'm preoccupied. I obsess. That's what happens when I'm in charge. It still happens sometimes, right? Sanity comes from that acknowledgement, right? Sanity comes from all of you, right? Together, right? In a sense that there's no way left alone. I need something more than me, right? And it could start with you all. Today, my higher power is, today it's all you, right? Some days I don't know, it changes, but it's one thing for sure, it shouldn't be me, right? And then I got to realize, right, that there's a process I have to trust. It's very hard for me to let go, right? But that honesty that I brought to step 1 starts to have to come critically in step 4, right? I have to tell somebody my story and let myself be known. And it's really hard because I want you to think of me a certain way. I want to think of myself a certain way, right? But step 4 and 5 allow me to look at myself, right? Ready or not, here I come, right? All of it, right? And step 6 and 7 have given me the ability to name and identify, right? The things the way I was presented to me, not just the things that need changing, but also the things that I need to grow, the assets that I need to grow, and the things that I'd like to build that are the opposite of the defects, right? Step 8 and 9 have helped me and continue to help me. I'm in the middle of step 9 now, continue to help me to repair, right? I can't believe I'm not angry at my mom. Can't believe it took me 25 years, right? I can't believe I when I got to program, I thought I thought like there's a rule, you have to get divorced. but you have to. Right? 'Cause everybody got divorced. Everybody I knew who had what I wanted. And I was looking for people who maintained a healthy body weight and knew what it's like to have freedom from the disease. Right? It was very important to me. So all those people I knew had divorces, every last one of them. And I'm like, oh, well, when's mine? Right? This sucks. Right? This sucks being married. I'm a victim. Right? That took 15 years to change my perspective. 15 years. Took me 15 years to see I'm the problem. So I'm a slow learner, right? I'm a very slow learner. So what has evolved, right, is this gradual, steady change, right? I became a better son. I became a better sibling. I became a better friend, a trustworthy friend. I became a respected colleague and professional, right? I became someone who people ask me to sponsor. And by the way, I never had a sponsee stick with me. It took me 11 years. So I'm no rock star here, right? I'm no like, wow, I saw the light and everybody wants what I had. I wouldn't want what I have. And the thing with OA is they give you the mic like 5 minutes in if you lost some weight. So like I got to be such a D-bag, right? Talking about everything I thought I knew, right? Right, without doing any steps, right? I got to have a lot of opinions, and I remember a 45-minute show. I'm like, oh my God, what did I say? Right. And and I guess it's just what I needed to do. So all of those things have happened, right? And slowly, 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 slowly. I'm certainly not the guy. I love this one. I'm not the guy I was. I'm not the guy I want to be. I'm way, but I'm certainly, I still have a lot of, I have not graduated. And I'm grateful I haven't graduated. I sponsor people. I meditate twice a day, I write every morning, which is just the anchor. And I was resistant to that. I'm like, where does it say you have to do that in the big book? I was that guy, right? So I I'm so grateful, and all the things that the people did, except for get divorced, all the people that they did, all the things they did that worked, I ended up doing too. I get on my knees. I know that one. I'm like, I'm not getting on my knees, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I got on my knees. I'm willing to get on my knees. I'm willing to do anything. And I want sanity. I really, 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 really want sanity. So so there's 2 points I'll leave you with. One, the most important thing by far is I'm fired from food. I can't, and I know what it means. I know what foods get me drunk. I'm not in charge. I know how much I can have, and I know when I can have it. I don't change those rules ever, right? Meaning like I'm not playing games with that. And I know what playing games is. You know what playing games is. There's no negotiation. There's really not. I can't negotiate that. The negotiator gets me in trouble, right? So I don't do that, right? I just can't. That's a given. And the second piece is I have to be able to be myself around you, not the version of me I want you to see, but the version of me that I am. I have to have the freedom to not look good in front of you guys and tell the truth in real time. Because if I don't, right, I'm not good at that secret. I'm not good at secrets. So when they say you're as sick as your secrets, I really get that. And that's a secret to me. If I'm trying to look better than I am, it's a secret. Right. So I can't afford secrets. I have to be known. I'm shy, believe it or not. Right. I'm not like Mr. Vulnerable. Right. I wouldn't say that, but I have to learn how to do it here. Right. Because otherwise I'm consumed in my head. I already am consumed in my head, but otherwise I'm too consumed in my head. I'm so grateful for my anchor points. I'm grateful for the people I sponsor. I'm grateful for my sponsor. I'm part of a great community of men who use a similar language as me and talk about this idea of no unilateral food decisions. It's just so clean to me. I love it. Right. And that's all I got. I'm glad I got to share with my people, my 100-pounders, right? 100-pounders, right? I get it. I get it. So thanks you all. Hope you all have a good day.
Mm.